Welcome to the Young Man's Guide to Life podcast, where we try to help young adults live their best life by calling out misconceptions about adulthood.
Yes.
By helping you learn from the mistakes of others, i.e. our mistakes, and by empowering you to take risks so that you can live the best life, the life that we believe you were made to live.
That's awesome.
My name is Andrew, and I'm the host of this podcast, and this is my close friend and co-host,
Wow.
Erik Jensen.
Close friend?
We became close friends a few minutes ago when you told me something.
We just notched our friendship level.
We notched it up. That's
cool.
what we're all about here at the Young Man's Guide to Life.
Yeah.
Podcast is notching up friendship.
Nice. Ratcheting it up.
Yeah. Today, we have a very special episode.
We do.
And I've been looking forward to this one for a long time because I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions about adulthood.
Yeah.
And I hear this from young adults all the time.
Yeah.
And so today's podcast is mostly going to be about I can't get married.
Yeah.
I can't get married.
I hear that all the time.
Everybody has 100 reasons, 100 excuses why they can't get married. And the two of us are married.
We are.
And you were married
as
quite
of now.
young.
I mean, my wife hasn't let me know any different. And
yeah, you're still married.
It's 4 o'clock today, so
it's pretty good.
I made it.
Yeah. Usually by
Another
4
day.
o'clock, she's like sending you kind of leading texts, right? But,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we're good today. I made it through another day of marriage.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm still married. I've been married for what, 4 years? You've been married for how many years?
Almost 10.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
We'll jump into that a little bit later in the podcast, but you were 21. I was 24 when I got married, and we were both able to do it, and we're not impressive. So,
well, I think you're impressive.
Thanks,
You
Erik.
said that thing about us being close friends, and now I just like I'm your biggest fan now.
That's so nice. So what we want to do later in the podcast is we want to spend a lot of time talking about all the misconceptions about getting married young, what needs to be in place in order to get married, should you get married, what's wisdom, et cetera, because we think it's important to talk about.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, we were having an off-camera conversation that we need to continue because we found a bit of a divide in our relationship a few minutes ago.
Yeah, we were risking our friendship.
We risked it.
On the subject of comedians.
The question was, can you have comedy without offending somebody? And I was on the side saying no. Like all comedy, the whole point of comedy is offending people. You're supposed you can't. Nothing's that funny unless it has the potential to offend somebody. Yeah. And you're saying no, that's not true.
No, it's garbage. So I was like bringing up some comedians that I thought were like. And I think that there's a bit of a semantics here because I think we need to talk a little bit about what do we mean by offensive because, like you were saying, that like well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I was saying that the content doesn't need to be inherently offensive in order to be funny.
Fair.
So in other words, like Seinfeld episodes are funny because, there's this crazy character that lives across the hall and they get into shenanigans about breakfast cereal and parking spots and like all these things that have no particular offensive quality to them. And it's just the truth of the absurdity of normal life that makes it funny.
Right.
And you were kind of...
I was kind of
back and forth. We were kind of talking about it differently, I think.
So the context of it was this week we're still in the COVID situation where we're mostly on quarantine. So we're watching a lot of stuff. And while I was doing dishes this last week, I watched the comedian Dave Chappelle get the Mark Twain Award. And for those who don't know, the Mark Twain Award is like the ultimate award in comedy. It's like only given to very few people who transcend the genre of comedy. And if you know, and if you haven't been living under a rock, you would know that Dave Chappelle is that. And so he was given this award because he's kind of like at the peak of the comedy period, at least in my opinion, and in the people who vote on the most important, prestigious comedic awards opinion. Maybe Erik differs on that.
Yeah.
But so I'm thinking he's up there. And the thing about him is that he is like people are so offended by things that he says, but not for that long. But his comedy it's so offensive, or it can be so offensive, or has the potential to be so offensive, even though it's done in the name of comedy, and therefore it's okay. And I'm kind of from the position that I haven't listened to that many funny guys who their content isn't on the border of making people feel uncomfortable about being offended themselves or the person next to them being offended.
Yeah.
And you're saying, no, that's not true. You don't need that in order to have good comedy.
I don't think you need it. I think that I think the truly funny people in the world are funny outside of their. I think truly funny people are the ones who are good enough to work clean and good enough to point out what's funny about everyday life. And I do actually think that Dave Chappelle has that gift.
He does.
So I'm not like saying Dave Chappelle's not funny because he's hilarious. And he's also from Ohio, just so you know.
There you go.
Which I am too. All great things come from Ohio.
Yeah.
But I am saying that comedy in and of itself doesn't require like a provocative nature in order to be funny.
I think I agree with that.
Right.
I agree with that. I believe in clean comedy. There's actually a couple of clean comics on Netflix that I think are brilliantly funny.
Yeah.
One of them you just look at and you laugh. He's that funny looking.
Yeah.
And so he's got that kind of edge to him. Some people, they just use kind of dramatics and that makes them funny or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think at the heart of comedy is critique. At the heart of comedy is critiquing the obvious, or maybe the not so obvious in the obvious, or the things that we all miss, but that they're able to see and they're able to deconstruct or critique or call out the absurdity in. Yeah. And anytime you have critique, what you have is a potential of offense. You are either critiquing a certain way of life, and people who live that way of life might feel offended that you're critiquing it, or you're critiquing an item or the way something was developed or the way something was built, and the person who built it, the designer, might feel a little bit offended by that. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah.
Not that it has to be rude or overtly offensive.
Yeah.
But
what comedians are you watching right now?
Oh, what comedians am I watching? I just watched Chris D'Elia. We were just watching him last night. He has a new special.
Is it good?
He's good. He's one of those kind of like, he's one of those kind of like crazy, silly, goofy. You think he's just like a crazy guy.
Yeah.
But he's actually like a pretty sane guy. He's interesting. He's not quote unquote a clean comic,
right?
But he doesn't do any drugs and he doesn't drink.
Right.
He's never drank alcohol or done any drugs in his whole life. And so he's one of these characters who you watch him and you think, okay, this guy clearly did drugs before coming out on stage, and his whole shtick is really he's not coherent, right? He's being crazy and wild, and he's got these eyes, right? But he's actually totally clean in that respect, even though his comedy isn't quote unquote clean. And when we say clean comedy, what we're talking about is like guys who don't cuss all the time and make jokes about female anatomy, right? Like that's mostly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, but when it comes to lifestyle, he's actually pretty unique in that respect. Yeah. I saw Tom Segura recently. I watched him. He's pretty funny.
Yeah. You know who I don't think is funny that gets a lot of press is Trevor Noah. Not a Trevor Noah fan.
I've never found Trevor Noah funny.
No. Even he does late night, right?
Is that his show is like, he's great on the show in that he's like this kind of funny, but still proper and respectable and clean, young, progressive guy, right?
Yeah.
But his stand-up's not very good.
No.
And you know who else is terribly not funny?
So critical of these like world-class comedians. Yeah, who are you talking?
Do you watch Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
So Michael Che, I think, has the worst delivery I've ever seen on TV in comedy. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah?
But he's like...
I've not seen any of his like stand-up or anything.
Oh, man. He's at the top of the game.
Yeah.
He's very political, and I think people find that funny. And he can make, racial jokes and stuff like that people find funny. And him sitting with Colin Yost, who's like the awkward white guy.
Yeah.
There's a funny dynamic there.
Yeah.
But I just have a hard time with his comedy. I just don't think his delivery is very good at all. And it stresses me out watching Saturday Night Live, like the mecca of comedy.
Yeah. Saturday Night Live is not Saturday Night Live at one point was maybe the mecca of comedy, but
it's still
the last
where you go
15
to get known.
years, not anymore.
In 15 years, the comedians that you're going to watch in movies are people who were on Saturday Night Live.
I think it used to be that way. Like the David Spade and all those guys like Chris Farley and who's that guy? Oh my gosh. Adam Sandler. Like all those guys came out of Saturday Night Live and it was like the grooming place. Now it's sort of like Kenan Thompson, who like used to be funny and was on Like he kind of had like
he's still brilliantly
a
funny.
meteoric rise, and then
Yeah.
like now it's like where he settled.
Yeah, he was weird in that he never took off into
Right.
like
And it was like,
going
I
beyond
guess I'll do Saturday Night Live. He's hilarious.
Right.
I think he's incredibly talented. Dude,
Kate McKinnon, though. Kate McKinnon is the thing is I never want to
got discovered
watch
there. Yeah, for sure.
I never want to watch a Saturday Night Live episode without her in 3 sketches. But I also want her to do far more than Saturday Night
Where
Live.
she does the
She's-
alien abductions.
What's that?
Have you seen the
when she played the hit girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
it's so
that's
good.
the most ridiculous
It's so
thing.
good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
we're in agreement that Dave Chappelle obviously is at the top of the comedy period, or at least close to it. What's
Yeah.
you're looking at like?
I don't know. I know you said that earlier. I don't think he's. I don't.
There's sketch
I
comedy.
gotta let that
the
settle.
Chappelle Show. There's nothing that's ever touched the Chappelle Show or
That's
ever
true.
will.
That's true.
And if you
All
rewatch
his
it on
Prince-
YouTube,
all his
it's
Prince
funnier.
bits are really
Oh
funny.
my goodness! There's so too many characters that I don't think anybody will ever touch.
I think stand up is the pinnacle of comedy is stand up because it's you on a stage by yourself and with your material and that's
Yep.
it. And like sketch comedy is okay and like really really good sketch comedy is really fun, but like it's still I think you need that I have such a respect for stand up comics.
Yeah, me
But
too.
somebody I'm watching that he hasn't released anything in a while, but at least that I know of is James Acaster.
I've never heard that
British
name.
guy. He does these
Oh,
really.
I've seen him.
He
He's
has
kinda
this
weird.
really weird
Yeah.
delivery and like
I had a hard
storytelling and all of it. Yeah, it's very fun. But
Neil Brennan's 3 Mics
Neil Brennan's good.
is phenomenal.
He was a head writer on Chappelle's
He
show.
was the head writer of Chappelle's Show.
So,
Yeah. He
I guess
is
I'm-
absolutely brilliant.
I guess I'm kind of putting myself back. I'm arguing with myself now.
Yeah, you are.
He is
so
great.
basically, where we're at, I think that all comedy I think there's a potential of offending. You say you can do it without.
Yeah.
The challenge for us, though, as pastors, especially doing this live stream stuff and these podcasts, like I've said things already in 4 weeks of doing this that is recorded and is going to be on the internet forever that has offended people, and I'm not even trying to do that. But we're trying to be light, we're trying to be fun, we're trying to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I
there's
think-
always that potential of offending some people or somebody because we are trying to be authentic and be funny and be critical and do that kind of stuff, you know? And I feel like we're kind of stuck sometimes as pastors.
We just get the bad thing.
Well, we want to
have the
present
risk.
ourselves as authentic because we want to be. We want to be we talked about it in our last podcast.
Oh, right,
But
but-
being real, being authentic, and we're pastors, but we're humans too. But then
Do you find
There's-
that to be a pressure that you feel like you can't be authentic and you're afraid of yourself being offensive to somebody?
there's a lot of things that I would say in like with my
Ones
wife that I think is hilarious
that you wouldn't say.
that I can't say. Not even like I
Yeah.
won't. Like I can't because you have to
guess
also
it's
be
pretty-
wise. Like you want to be wise at the same time as kind of free and expressive.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a balance.
there's a young man's guide tip right there. Is the ability deference to other people and not just saying whatever comes to your mind, but being that's a good.
That's actually
good.
a really good take. That's a really healthy
It's a good
take.
trait.
Yeah. Yeah, some young adults actually have talked to me even in the past year about how they feel like the church is so judgmental and they just want to be themselves and talk
Yeah.
how they want. And a lot of the questions actually the students come up with is, what's the problem with swearing? What's the
Yeah.
big deal about it, right?
Yeah.
And the answer I'm always giving them is that, well, language is somewhat relative and subjective, and what was a
Sure.
swear word 50 years ago isn't today, and what is today wasn't 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But you're wise to actually make choices about what you're saying around people based on how it's going to portray not just you, but Jesus in you to that group of people.
Maybe that sounds like a young man's guide topic we should do sometime.
That's a sermon.
That's a whole thing, not
Let's
a
do
sermon.
that.
Let's
Yeah,
not do
no,
a sermon.
Let's talk about that soon.
Let's talk about that. That'd be fun.
But
Difference
before we
in-
talk about that, let's pivot because we got an important topic that we want to talk about today.
Let's pivot.
And that's I can't get married. I can't get married.
Why can't you?
Why can't I get married?
So the idea behind this is, I hear this all the time. Like, oh, we're gonna get married, but, and then there's some excuse.
What are the top 5 excuses? Let's go through the top 5 excuses that young adults give you or give me why they can't get married.
All right, I'll give you the first one. Is I'm not financially stable.
What does financially stable mean?
Exactly. We'll talk about that in a second. Do you want to like?
Yeah, no.
Talk
Let's get the 5.
these?
No, let's get the 5 first.
All
I'm
right.
not financially stable, just so people know what we're going to talk about and they stick around in case it's interesting to them.
Second one is I'll get married after I'm done with school.
After I'm done school,
University. Yeah.
Because I can't get married while I'm in university or doing school. It's impossible.
Right. Yeah. The other one is I can't get married because I'm too young. I'll get married when I'm 28.
30.
30.
Yeah, 28's young, man. 30. So I'm too young. What are some others?
What are some that you had? Because I know you had a couple.
Yeah, careers. So I was thinking some people are like, I just started my career, don't want to mess it up with getting married.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get into this position, then I think I'll be in a position to get married.
I'm focusing on my career right now.
They're not stable in their career.
Yeah. And what's your number 5?
What was my number 5?
Is it personal development? I was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest ones are that financially stable,
Yeah.
education, I'm too young, I'm not stable
in my
career.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it was I'm just not ready. That's what it was.
Personally.
And it was I'm not So
commitment.
What I meant by that is I'm too immature.
Yeah.
She's too immature, he's too immature. We're just not ready.
Yeah.
We don't know what that means. We don't know what it means to be ready. There's no definition around it, but it's just I'm not ready. Speaking of I'm not ready, fun tip. So Ashton, when I proposed to her, the first thing she said to me was, "I'm not ready."
Really?
Yeah, it was a terrifying moment.
Wow.
It was half a second, and what she later communicated was what she meant by that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take her word for this. What she meant by that was like, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't prepared for this moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
We were walking, and I was about to get on a knee.
That's
and she said,
than
I'm not ready.
My engagement story ended with me and Austin in a Taco Bell drive-through ordering chalupas. That was the peak of our wonderful.
Well, why don't we spend
moment.
30 to 50 seconds telling a quick story? What is the proposal? Quick.
Proposal. My proposal went sideways. So Austin was living in North Carolina. I was living in Virginia. It's about a 6-hour drive. I plotted with her friends to set up this meeting at a coffee shop in her town, and I was going to surprise her when I was there. And so her friends get her like, "Hey, we're going out," and didn't tell her and I was driving down. And so I had the ring and all that stuff, they were having an event at the coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to just took it upon themselves to relocate our engagement and took her to Starbucks.
Bad friends, man.
Starbucks, bro. So I am like, whatever. Okay, that's fine. This was before GPS. And so I didn't really know I didn't know where else to go, So I just was fine, whatever. So we showed up at Starbucks, and her friends didn't tell her to dress up for anything. So she's wearing sweatpants. She was mad at her friends because she's
at least tell me.
Messy hair and sweatpants. And we have this really lame video of us getting married in the middle of, but it was kind of cute because it was a surprise. But then
getting engaged, you're saying?
Getting engaged. The funniest part was that I didn't think of anything after "Will you marry me?" And so I was like, "Will you marry me?"
A lot of people make that mistake, man.
We hugged, and then there was this now what moment, and I was like, I'm kind of hungry, and so we went across the street and got Taco Bell. So that was our engagement story.
That's actually a pro tip. Pro tip is have a plan of what you're doing right after the engagement.
Plan the
Otherwise,
whole
it's
day.
mad awkward. Yeah, plan the whole day.
And don't let your friend Josh Wood and I think it was Leah actually, our friend Leah who relocated.
Yeah, don't rely too much on her friends. That's just unreliable.
It's hurtful.
Yeah. Maybe rely on your family if you can in that scenario. My story is that I had moved to Indiana for school in August. We came back in September for Josh and Kayla Lehman's wedding, who some of you may know.
Yeah.
And so all of my friends were in town and were prepared to be a part of this already, and I thought it'd be a cool thing to do with friends present. And I also have some friends with cameras who took some nice pictures and video of it. So on the Sunday after the wedding was on Saturday, Sunday after church, we'd all planned on going on a hike to the special falls that's nearby. It's beautiful. fall day, and I had my parents and my family in advance go set up one of these kind of lookout spots over the falls with, kind of things and section it off so no one could go there with a bottle of wine and stuff like that. So we're on our way with our friends, doing a hike. She had no idea. And then we got up these stairs. But so there's this stairs, basically this is probably like 3 stories of stairs up the side of this hill to get to the platform.
Yeah.
And we're all walking together. I'm obviously like sweating, nervous, right? Got a ring in my pocket. Everybody knows what's going on except for her. And she this is something Ashton would do. She gets to the stairs and she bolt up the stairs, right? So she's leaving us all in the dust.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at my friends going, I don't know what to do. She doesn't realize what's up there is for her.
Yeah.
She gets up there. She sees these signs like this is sectioned off. She thinks in her mind like, oh, that's cute. Someone's getting engaged today. Keeps going by. I finally get to the top of the stairs and I'm like, hey, you need to come back here. And then she was like, oh, shoot, it's me. Yeah. So we walked over, did the thing, and it was really, really beautiful. And then
you did it right.
We planned it on a day where we went straight to a 21 Pilots concert after in the evening. That was our dinner plan. So we went to Distillery District, Toronto. We had a friend of ours from the show come take some pictures of us there, and then also went to the show after. So it was like an amazing, amazing day. I know.
That's pretty cool.
Awesome. If you need any tips, let me know.
Yeah. I learned those lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
So my next marriage, I'll do it right.
Yeah.
Don't tell my wife. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
That's not funny. I haven't tried that hard since, so I need to keep working. I need to keep working on it.
You can just amp up your date night to be as important as the engagement.
I should. That's actually a pro tip. That's something I need to do. That's something that you can learn from. So there's a couple misconceptions, 5 misconceptions that we noted. Let's go through them and call each of them out, because the point of this show is to call out misconceptions about adulthood so that you can actually live your best life. So the first one, I'm not financially stable, I'm not financially ready, et cetera, et cetera. What are some subcategories of that?
The subcategories of that is people think that it's the mature thing to do to have some arbitrary amount of money in a bank account somewhere in order to get married.
Yeah.
And there's 2 reasons for that. One of them is like life stability. I think people rightly want to go into marriage like well prepared.
Yep.
And I think that that's good.
There's wisdom in that.
At least in the thought process. But the other one that I hear a lot that I don't like is, in order for us to pay for the wedding that we want, I need $20,000 to pay for a wedding. And I think that that's a terrible use of money. It's one night and you're just feeding a lot of people, and I don't know. So I would advise people getting married to think ahead, but yeah, don't put all your money and all your dreams into one event, because it won't. I've done a lot of weddings. I've been a part of a lot of weddings. Something always goes wrong. It's always beautiful. Some of the best weddings I've been to have been in people's backyards.
How much did your wedding cost?
Ballpark. I paid $4,000.
Okay, so it cost you.
Yeah, my parents.
$4,000. Your parents pitched in.
We did. Yeah, we got the venue for free. Her dress was not that expensive. She looked really good though. It was awesome. But we did a pig roast. Actually, we had a rotisserie pig in my parents' backyard, and just had like a kind of a fun outdoor community thing. Yeah,
we our wedding, we actually had a U.S. wedding where we had a lot of friends and family, about 260 come down for that wedding. A lot of people from Indiana that, in Ashton's tradition, or at least from their cultural background,
she's from Indiana.
Well, the bride's parents pay for that, right?
Yeah,
or for a lot of it. So actually, that was paid for mostly by them. Thank you, Ranks. That was amazing, and it was such a cool thing to do. And that was a wonderful wedding, but that was about, I think, $10,000 to $11,000 US.
Yeah.
And then my parents paid for a Canadian reception, which was probably another $5,000 or $6,000 Canadian.
Dang, you guys are high rollers.
Yeah, we got blessed. We got blessed by a family who actually thought like this is our role, this is our responsibility. We paid some money out of pocket for some of these things, but so that's kind of what it costed. But the question is, what does it actually cost to get married?
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is actually almost nothing.
Zero.
Yeah. If you can find a free officiant, which if you want, you can ask them to do it.
If you call Renew Church home, I will marry you for free.
Yeah. So it basically costs you going to the government office
like the form,
and asking them for
$50
or something like that. Yeah, basically. And you just need 2 friends, so you don't have to pay to be there to be witnesses.
Yeah.
So in reality, a wedding doesn't actually cost you almost anything if you want to get married. Getting married doesn't cost you almost anything.
It's finances is a terrible reason to not get married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be thinking,
Who am I marrying?
Well, we're going to get to that, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have someone who's worth marrying, you want to marry, you should marry, then the question shouldn't be, what dream wedding do I have, and when will I have enough money to have it?
Yeah.
The question should be, when is it best for us to get married, and then what are we going to be able to afford by that time?
Yeah.
That's kind of the better way to think about it.
Yeah. And to not put all your stock into the fairy tale wedding, I think we put too much on that. It's easy for me, a dude, to say. I know it's probably different for the ladies out there and some guys, but yeah. I watch people spend way too much money on weddings, and it's a little heartbreaking.
It is. We actually have friends who in Ohio who just got married during this COVID thing. There was all this kind of stuff going on around things here and there with family and stuff like that, and it wasn't even on webcam. It was some friends that Joel married. Friends of mine, at Three Creeks. They literally just him and her, and they're two witnesses, and they're fishing. Boom. They went and got married, and they're married,
nice.
Right? And it's real. It's legitimate. It's as legitimate as any wedding I've ever seen, any marriage I've ever seen. Costed them basically nothing to do. They are married. They get to live as married people, and they might do some sort of thing in the future when they can afford it or whatever. But number one, I'm not financially stable. Bad reason, bad excuse. It's wise to be saving, but not just to get married.
Depends on why. Yeah.
You don't have to have any money. You can have all your school debt.
I worked part-time at Best Buy when I got married to my wife.
And I was in seminary spending lots of money. So,
I was also spending lots of money because I worked at Best Buy. So I bought a lot
at Best Buy? What was the discount?
I think we got it for cost.
That's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
There's a pro
certain
tip.
things were like a laptop computer was like no money off, but like DVDs you got them for like $2. Nice. So,
second misconception: I have to be done my degree before I get married.
Yeah.
I hear this all the time, especially here. There is an emphasis on education, which is a good thing. Education's great. Finish your degree. Don't finish halfway through, 3/4 through, and then ditch it. Finish it. It's good. It'll help you. But can you get married while you're doing school?
100%. 100%. And actually, I think it's really helpful. In some ways, it puts things into perspective. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who invest time and money into their education, and it's not going to be part of their long-term life. Like we see that all the time. People, And so if you have somebody who you want to go through life with, and like that's the biggest piece of your life, really, is the partner that you go through life with.
Yep.
And so you're going to change careers and you're going to do other things and you're going to struggle and you're going to, but if you have the person, right, which, like that's the most important thing. And so if you guys can get through school together, in a lot of ways you can save on, if you're both in school, you can save on housing. If you're, one of you's in school, one of you's not, then one of you can work and help the other one. So there's a lot of really good things about doing something like that.
Did you do some school while you were when you were married?
Yeah. And it's tough. Like honestly, it could be tough. We actually had kids while I was in school, and so I would work all day.
Hold up, are you here? Are you a real person?
I am.
You had kids, and you were doing school, and you were working, and you were married. I didn't know that was possible.
It is. It's possible, ladies and gentlemen.
It's wild.
You heard it here.
You heard it here.
And it was actually. We look back on those times fondly. It was good for us. Mm-hmm. It really helped shape us, which is something that I want to talk about overall. So maybe now's not the time, but
yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah,
we'll get to it.
What's the next one?
The third one is I'm too young to get married.
How young is too young?
How young is too young? That's a good question. I was 24. Is that too young?
I was 21, so I guess I have no moral high ground. Austin was 20.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law, Abby Bromer, was 18.
Too young.
She got married.
Way too young. You don't know yourself. You haven't experienced enough life. You haven't traveled. You haven't saved up. You haven't bought your own home yet. You haven't gotten your career. You're way too young to get married.
You want to know what they're doing right now? They have a nice little baby. She's pregnant with their second. They live in Hawaii.
Wow. Hawaii.
And they own a home.
There's your pro tip. Get married at 18 and you can own a home in Hawaii. There it is. You heard it first here.
Yeah. You did.
There's probably an age that's too young, and that's probably...
Well, legally, there is a legal age. I don't know exactly what it is. But children shouldn't be getting married.
Children should not be getting married.
That should be legal.
Absolutely. Children should not be getting married. There are other cultures in the world where that age is lower because of where they're at culturally and stuff like that. Where we're at, kind of the numbers like you should be at least 18. You should be able to vote maybe, but that's arbitrary. I'm making that up. But we don't advocate child marriage. We advocate adult marriage. You need to be a fully functioning adult to probably explore it. But you can be that at 19.
At the church I grew up in, there was a lady, she's like 90 years old, and she got married when she was 14.
Wow.
And he was 15.
It's wild time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you can say that crazy, but that wasn't that crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were together for like 70 years.
And it's not like, well, this is the thing. It's not, like, we're 50 years removed from people who were getting married super young regularly. And it's like, it's not like they're fine, right? And it's not like that's crazy. You're not that different of a human being than they were.
Yeah.
So
okay, I'm gonna take us there because I think it's important. All right. Most people make the decision on who they should marry around the worst possible metrics, and that's the ones that we're mentioning here. Okay, if you there's a spiritual component to this for sure, but even beyond that, like if you're saying I want to commit myself to living with this person for the rest of my life, all these things that we've mentioned so far, financially stable, done with school, I'm too young, all that stuff is like so quick. If you think about spending 60, 70, 50 years with another human being, how much money you have in the bank in 2020 is totally irrelevant.
Totally irrelevant.
To the balance of the rest of your life. Yeah. And so people make the decision on, does this person make me happy? And I'm financially ready, or I'm done with school and it's a good timing and all that kind of stuff. And it's all complete garbage. The point of our relationships and our marriage, our covenant together, is to do life with this person.
To build a life with the person. Right?
And how better to do that than in these transitional moments where you can do it with the partner that you feel like you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So go through school with your life partner, not Dave, who's your roommate. Like, who cares about Dave? You're not even going to know Dave in 10 years.
Right.
You are going to know your wife or your husband. So make them your college roommate.
Make them your college roommate. You hear first. And again, we're not advocating everyone should get married at a specific age. What we're doing is we're calling out misconceptions about marriage, because in the culture we live in, it feels like everything is telling us, wait, push it. Here's all the reasons why. And what you're saying is those aren't actually the good reasons to get married or not get married.
And how like, and this kind of goes to these next two. So the next two are not in a stable career, which we've kind of already talked about. It's a little bit. It's about future and planning and stuff like that. And the last one is that you're not personally ready. I had somebody recently tell me, like, I want to kind of like travel. I want to get to know myself before I get married.
Right.
And I said to them, to both of them, they were both there. I said, you shouldn't learn how to be on your own.
Yeah.
Marriage is about being with someone.
Yep.
And so why not shape each other in the most transitional and kind of chaotic, but in a formative way? Why not experience that together? If you know that you're going to marry this person, that's kind of the context that we're kind of assuming. Like if you feel like you have your partner, pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that can happen is that you can get used to living without that person, and then it makes living with them that much harder.
It does make it harder. Yep.
How many times do we see people who like are dating for years and years and years and years and years, and then they like move in together and then it falls apart.
Totally.
Because they're trying to merge these two. They're trying to merge these two things that don't go together. Being
married to somebody and actually committed to lifelong marriage, right?
Yeah.
Some people who are married and they're not
that.
actually committed to it.
That's true.
They don't have the same ethic. And for those situations, we're assuming you're not even listening to this podcast. It's fine. But for those who think of marriage as like a lifelong thing that you are committing to and there's no out, right? There's no reason to look for an out.
Yeah.
You are committing to your whole life with this person, and you are going to have to relearn everything about yourself in the context of being with this person compared to being in the context without this person. And there's a difference between dating, and even the difference between dating and living together and actually being married. In dating, you have an out, and it's breaking up. And there's no legal implications to it. Hopefully there's no children involved yet because you haven't planned for that. Sometimes that happens. We won't get into that. Living together, same thing. You just kind of stop living together.
Yeah.
You're not committed to life when you're living together and dating. You haven't fully committed to that. So there's an out. And you live differently when you have that out.
Yeah.
Like you treat this person differently when you have that out.
Yeah.
I treated Ashton differently when I knew she could have walked away from me at any moment. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's a reality, and I'm learning that about myself. There's a difference when all of a sudden we're together and we're not going anywhere. And so I feel more free to be who I actually am, which is usually a lot messier than I think it was beforehand. And so does she. And we're having to figure this thing out. And everyone goes through that, and everyone has to deal with that. But it's no matter how long you've been on your own, it's actually going to be harder because you're going to think you're dope, right? If you haven't been married to somebody, you're going to think you're God's gift. I did. I read like 7 books on marriage. I thought I was awesome. I didn't really date anybody until I dated Ashton. Like I thought I was God's gift to Ashton, right? And now like we're in the thick of marriage, and I'm for the last 4 years have been relearning I'm not God's gift to anyone, let alone to her. And I'm seeing that more now than I ever have, and I have to relearn so much stuff.
Humility to that for sure. And you're gonna learn that too. Like I think it was like 7 years in, and we kind of felt like I felt like we hit a stride, Austin and I. So I think that stuff comes here. I want to mention one thing. I think there are some good reasons not to get married.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I want to tell you the biggest reason not to get married is if you are looking for your partner to fix you. I think that's the thing that most people get married and find themselves in a bad situation is because they have junk in their life, whether it be insecurity or addiction or whatever, and they feel like their partner's going to fix their problem or financial. I feel, and so they what they do. Here's what that mentality does: is it takes the burden that is your piece, and it puts it on your loved one. Yeah. And it says, you fix this for me
because I can't do with it myself.
And I will tell you, that is the fast track of a bad time. And honestly, that's how I approached marriage, to be honest with you. I took Austin for granted. Well, not for granted. I expected everything to be perfect and for our relationship to make it so. And so I brought a lot of that stuff to her. And until I was willing to own my own junk and and be a partner in this relationship, that was when things really turned around in a huge way. And it took us a long time to figure that out. But yeah, what was great, what was awesome, and what was a God thing is that I have an amazing wife who we are committed to each other through thick and thin. And so we can go to war with those kind of things in our life together, which is really cool.
That's helpful. So you said this is what it means to not be ready. If you're looking at this person going, they're going to fix my problems, right? They're going to fix my financial problems. I suck with my finances. They'll be the solution to that. Because I went in thinking, Ashton's better at this than I am. That'll be fixed. They're going to fix your weight problems because you're like, well, they're going to make me eat healthier, and so we're going to eat healthier together, and I'm going to lose all my weight. I went into marriage thinking that's going to happen. Didn't happen. So that's when you're not ready. When are you ready to get married?
What's the? I think that there's an X factor to it. I talk about when I met Austin. Well, we were friends in high school, but when we started dating, I realized I had dated some other people and whatever, and we started talking, and in one conversation, I was like, this is a different thing, and I kind of knew, and I don't think that's true for everybody, but for me it was, and I think that it's when you're able to look at this person and say, no matter what their behavior is like, I want to be with them, and like I will commit myself to them with no strings attached. I think that's the moment when you're ready.
I think that's it. I agree 100%. That's what I was going to say myself. I was going to say, you're ready when you're sitting across the table from someone who you look at and you go, this person exhibits the most important characteristics of someone that I should be married to. And if you have some level of self-awareness about what's good for you and stuff like that, then you'll know that. And they're actually saying the same thing about you. They're willing to marry you. Like, you don't want to wait that much longer. You don't, because first of all, you're not God's gift. So somebody better than you might come along.
Right. Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
Second of all, like your feelings are going to change constantly.
Yeah.
Inside of marriage, outside of marriage.
Feelings are another terror. That should have been one of the things.
Yeah, actually, it should have been.
Why I can't get married because I don't feel like I love them anymore.
You're ready when you're sitting across the table from someone else who you're going to look at and go, I'll do anything to stay with this person and fight for this. And I'm in a position to say that and commit to that wholeheartedly, and they are too. Like there's nothing else really you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a big thing. And I think commitment's hard for, our listeners and stuff. Like we feel the pressure of that. And I think that you should.
Yeah.
Like don't make this, the misconceptions are the frivolous things that we talk about when it comes to marriage. But there are really, really, really important things about deciding who your partner is going to be. And those should be taken into the utmost consideration.
Yeah.
Because if you take marriage vows seriously, which I think everybody should, it's a one-way ticket in a lot of ways, right?
It's supposed to be.
And obviously that there's things that happen in life, right? And that should be mourned and not felt as like a escape hatch, to be pulled. And luckily God gives us the ability to sort of get out of really bad situations. But I think that the most important thing is to be able to look that other person in the eye and say, I'm going to go through thick and thin with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And to mean it.
And then a side pro tip, don't do it alone. No marriage exists alone.
Give good advice.
It is not between just you and the other person. For one, I tell every couple I marry this, every single one of them, and it's quite a few nowadays. I tell every single one, your marriage actually is bigger than the two of you. How well you're doing with one another, it actually impacts how I experience life. So it matters. Your community matters. The people you're around matters. If they have kind of hesitations and different opinions about it, it matters less than yours, but it matters. And if you're seeking advice, go to people who actually have proven success in this, people who are honorable and live honorable and respectable lives. Don't go to your friend who's not married. Yeah. Don't go to your friend who's living with their boyfriend. Don't go to your uncle who's on his third marriage.
Right.
Sometimes their advice makes you feel better about yourself because it's going to be tickling to your ears. It may not be the most helpful, wise advice. Go to people who you look at and go, they're still married. And,
how do you do that?
They live an honorable life, and you may look at them and go, but they're kind of boring. There's probably something to that.
We love boring.
There's probably a lot of wisdom to that, and there's probably a lot of things to learn from that. So go to people, ask them, talk to them about it before you make that kind of big decision, because it is big. Yeah. But don't sit around and wait forever. Yeah. You don't have to.
Yeah, don't wait for these reasons.
Anyway, that's our podcast for today, Young Man's Guide to Life. We are two young men giving you somewhat of a guide to life.
Probably terrible advice. Disclaimer.
Some of your parents are absolutely going to hate that. They're going to ask you to, they're going to block us from your internet feed. Right? They're going to put internet. I'm sorry about that. But this is the truth. And we're trying to be, we want to be helpful. Like, we actually care about young adults. We're in young adult ministry. We care about it. We love you guys. We think it's important that you share these things with you, because somebody may not be saying these kinds of things to you. Yeah. And we hope that it was helpful and beneficial to you. If it wasn't, ignore everything we said. But the point of this podcast is to call out misconceptions about adulthood, to learn from the mistakes of others, and we hope that you learned from some of our mistakes in this conversation, but also to empower you to take risk, risk like commitment, empower you to take risks to live the best life that God has for you. Yeah. So thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Boom.